Hello, my name is Mara, and welcome to Books Like Whoa. Okay, Kate-Daniels-a-thon rolls on with the 5th book, which is Magic SLAYS. If you have not been watching along, just so you know, this will have spoilers in it. This review will have spoilers. And I am reviewing all of the Kate Daniels books in anticipation of the release of the final book in the core original series, which is coming up on the 28th of August. I have spoiler-free reviews of the first book, and then I will also have spoiler-free reviews of Iron and Magic and Magic Triumphs, which are the most recent releases. But with that being said, that's your warning, and let me read you the synopsis before I give you a few of my thoughts about this particular book. Plagued by a war between magic and technology, Atlanta has never been so deadly. Good thing Kate Daniels is on the job. Kate Daniels may have quit the Order of Merciful Aid, but she's still knee-deep in paranormal problems, or she would be if she could get someone to hire her. Starting her own business has been more challenging than she thought it would be, now that the Order is disparaging her good name. Plus, many potential clients are afraid of getting on the bad side of the Beast Lord, who also just happens to be Kate's mate. So when Atlanta's premier Master of the Dead calls for help with a vampire on the loose, Kate leaps at the chance of some paying work. But it turns out that this is not an isolated incident. Kate needs to get to the bottom of it, and fast, or the city and everyone dear to her might pay the ultimate price. One thing that I've realized in this reread, and Ilona Andrews has talked about this before, that the first 3-4 books are Kate as mercenary. The 4, 5, 6, 7-ish books are Kate as consort, and then the last books are Kate as, badass queen. So, or I forget what the word is, whatever the female word is for whatever Roland is. What I've realized in this reread is that this middle section, especially books 5 and 6, are not my favorite part of the Kate Daniels arc, because I think it's basically, I just think she's really hamstrung because she is Curran's mate, so she can't handle things always the way that she would like to, because she has to think about him. I do think this book has a lot of good development between the two of them, as they're both kind of learning how to be partners, because neither of them has ever had to try to be accountable to someone before. And I think there's a lot of give and take there. I often think in this little stretch of the book, Kate is often portrayed, I think, as being more unreasonable than she actually is being. I actually think Curran a lot of times is much more kind of the problem than Kate. In that respect, I think what I don't love about these, I still love these books. Don't get me wrong. This is still a fantastic book. I really liked it. I think I gave it a 4-star. But the thing that I don't like about the dynamic in this period of the Kate-Curran relationship is it reminds me actually a lot of Eve and Rourke from the In Death series in the earlier books, where Eve is always being portrayed as being the unreasonable one, and I just don't think that's the case. I think that Rourke is just as often being unreasonable in some way, and I think that that somewhat gets true in this sort of little middle stretch of Kate Daniels books, is that I think Curran often kind of has his head up his ass a little bit, or is being, to some degree, as unreasonable as she is, and yet she's the one who I think is sort of, the authorial attitude seems to be she's the one who needs to change. Now, I say that. I think they buy back the farm with me on this in the 7th book, because I think when I look back on it, I see that some of what was happening here is character growth and development. So all that to say, I don't love those elements of the book, of this particular book, as much. And in the next one, I have a real problem, which you guys will see tomorrow. But in this book, I do think that there's a lot of sort of growing pains of these two very independent people building a life together. Now, I really like seeing some of Kate's stuff in terms of having her own business. I like spending more time with the people and learning more about that. There's a lot of things in this that are good, and I still really enjoyed this book, don't get me wrong. It's just not my favorite, and I think I end up putting this beneath Magic Strikes. So right now, Magic Bleeds is my favorite of the ones we've talked about so far. And I think that this book is somewhat filler. Now that I'm saying this out loud, I think the biggest thing is that this book somewhat suffers from not having as nearly as strong of an episodic element to it in this book as the previous book did. So the previous books, what was happening in that book itself and not in the macro arc, was just so satisfying. And in this one, it's just not quite as. Okay, I was just watching that back and realized that I 100% omitted any reference to Julie and that whole thing in this book. And I think that's by far and away the most interesting or important thing that happens in this book. So yeah, I thought that that was an interesting place to take it. I think it introduces elements of like control and like Kate having to deal with the realities of what her magic means, and like that it comes with good and bad things. I think that was really interesting, and I like that Curran like also had like kind of a red line with her, and I think that she understands that, respects it, and it brings them closer together ultimately. So anyway, I just realized I totally omitted anything having to do with Julie, so I felt like that was an oversight on my part. But anyway, all that to say, this is still a really good book. I still really enjoy it. I definitely like it better than the next one. But we are really like ramping up for when everything from this little section of the series pays off in the 7th book. So we will get there. But I think that's most of what I have to say. Let me know if you have any. I feel like I didn't have much substantive to say about this book, and that's because honestly, I think it's somewhat a forgettable installment. Like, I didn't remember what all happened in this book when I was doing my reread. So, yeah. Let me know if you guys had things that you felt like stuck out to you more in this book than did to me. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you are so inclined. I have all that information listed in the description box below. And yeah, I will be back tomorrow to talk to you guys about Magic Rises. Yikes. Bye.